Hey everybody, it's Jen. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I am a 26, almost 27-year-old mom to a little baby boy who's actually now a toddler. I like to make content all about lifestyle, nursing, motherhood. For today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how to become a travel nurse in 2024. If you're a nurse, I cannot express enough how much I recommend becoming a travel nurse to capitalize on making as much income as you can and to really push yourself out of the box as a nurse. I'm actually taking a step away from bedside nursing, travel nursing, med surg, everything. I'm leaving all of that behind to finally enter my dream specialty, which is pediatrics. If you've seen my TikTok, I announced on TikTok that I am officially a pediatric hematology oncology nurse. Just a disclaimer here, I'm not saying I'm an expert in nursing, travel nursing, or anything like that. I've had one contract that I extended for 6 months, but when I was doing all of the research and going through this process, I learned so much. So that's why I want to make this video for you guys, to share all of my information. All of that aside, I want to share with you guys all of the tips, tricks, money related things, everything like that related to becoming a travel nurse and how you can do it. Okay, my first thing is get that degree. In order to become a travel nurse, you have to start working at the bedside. So you need to get your associates or your bachelor's in nursing. It doesn't have to be a bachelor's. You can become a travel nurse with an associate. The important part is that you pass your NCLEX, you get your RN license in whatever state you're working in. Speaking of starting work, my next point is to get experience. It is so vital to have experience before you even consider becoming a travel nurse. I know all of like the travel and the pay and all the perks that come with it sound great, but truly it can be such a bad thing if you don't have experience. So pre-COVID, the rule was always 2 years before you could even be considered for any travel nurse contracts. During and post-COVID, things have changed. A lot of companies and hospitals are willing to look at nurses who only have 1 or 1.5 years of experience, but I strongly recommend you try and get those 2 years. 2 years is right where people start feeling a lot more comfortable. You might be starting to take some experience doing charge nurse roles. You might be precepting, taking nursing students. So you've really gotten enough experience under your belt to start teaching somebody else, which means that you probably would be okay doing traveling. When you become a travel nurse, a lot of the time you get 1 day of orientation before you're on the floor by yourself, left to your own devices. That's what I had. I had a code blue on my first day. It wasn't my patient, but I ended up helping with one. I was like, wow, this is a really ambitious way to start my first travel nurse job, doing compressions on this man about 2 hours into my shift. You want to have fun and make money, but you gotta be safe doing it. It's not worth losing your nursing license. Okay, now you have your degree, you got your experience, you're ready to start applying. Where do you begin? Let's talk agencies, contracts, all that good stuff. So typical travel nurse contracts are 13 weeks. They can be 3 12-hour shifts, days or nights, or they can be 4 12-hour shifts. Those are like the most typical contract breakdowns that you see. There's also some that are short term, some that I've seen that are 26 weeks, but 13 weeks is usually the standard. I do not recommend the 4 12-hour shifts a week. When you become a travel nurse, a lot of the time you have an amazing overtime rate. So there's no reason why you need to pick up a contract that has 4 12s, because that means every single week you're required to work those 4 days, versus if you do a regular 3 12-hour shift a week contract, you can just tack on some overtime days whenever your schedule and life allows for it. For example, with the current contract that I'm on, that I'm finishing up here soon, my overtime rate equals out to be like almost $150 an hour. Okay, so as far as agencies, there are so many different websites that you can go to find different contracts. Another great resource though is Vivian. This is actually where I found my contract. It's basically like Indeed, but only for travel nurse contracts. It's a really great place to shop around and really get a look at all of your options. The thing you need to know about Vivian is sometimes they do bait and switch the contracts, which means you'll see a really high paying contract on the website, and then once you talk to the recruiter and get more information, they'll switch it out with a much more standard rate. So just keep that in mind. My next point with that is never commit yourself to just one agency. The best way to really maximize your earnings is to jump around with different agencies, because different agencies will offer different rates at different times. Now, the only time I would recommend sticking with one agency is when you are relying on an agency for healthcare. You can get health insurance through your travel nurse agencies, but the way it works is usually you have to maintain having a contract with them. So let's say you take off like 2 weeks in between contracts, as long as you have another one signed after your last one ends, I believe your benefits do roll over. That's kind of the the general rule of thumb there. The other option with health insurance is to just get independent health insurance. There's a lot of information for that in like the travel nurse Facebook groups, or honestly, if you Google it, there are so many health insurance like agents or whatever they're called that are wanting to advertise and get you on a policy. There's pros and cons to both, right? If you work with your agency and get health insurance, it's covered. Your weekly rate is usually a little bit lower by maybe $100 or $200 if you do insurance through them. But the pros with having an independent policy is that you have flexibility. You are not tied to one agency because your healthcare and your benefits don't rely on them. Personally, for me, I get insurance through my husband, but if I didn't, I would probably go with the route of going with my agency's insurance because I have a family and we all need to be covered. I think that's cheaper, but if you're an individual, I probably would just go for the independent policies. My agency on my last contract was Lead Health Staff. I haven't heard of them before, but I've honestly had a great experience. This is my recruiter's contact information. If you want to contact him to look for a contract, let him know that Jennifer Piccolo sent you. Trusted and Nomad are two of the highest paying agencies because they actually don't have recruiters. Recruiters are basically like your liaison between the hospital and your travel nurse agency, so they kind of help coordinate everything. They answer a lot of questions, they check in on you, they're your advocate if you need any help. So there is higher pay, but the cons with that is that it's not great for first-time travelers because those recruiters are really helpful for guiding you in the right direction. There's also a little bit more of an annoying onboarding process because again, you're kind of dealing with a computer and not a person. Trusted is also run by nurses, so that's like another nice thing about it. They also have apps for your phone that are really helpful to use. Aya is probably the biggest agency that we've all heard of, and they're big for a reason. They get a lot of contracts. They're not always the highest paying because again, they have recruiters. If you notice another agency has a higher contract for the same hospital, same unit, you can bring it to your recruiter with Aya and they can try and match it for you because again, they really want your business. Maxim is another agency that's great for local contracts, and then ProLink and Medical Solutions are the two popular ones that people use to get contracts in Hawaii. Another great place to look for contracts is Facebook groups for travel nurses. I will link the two that I'm a part of down below in the description box if you want to join them. It's basically just another job board where a lot of different recruiters will post different jobs, or you can post on them and say, hey, I'm an ER nurse, I'm located in Illinois, I'm looking for a day shift travel nurse contract, 312s a week for more than $2,500 a week. And then you'll have a bunch of recruiters commenting and saying, hey, message me, or hey, I have a contract here at this hospital, and you can message them and talk. The one thing to keep in mind is that there are a lot of scammers and people from outside the country that will pose as a recruiter, so you always have to be really, really careful. Research the company you're applying for, look them up in these Facebook groups and see if other people have worked with them before, if they're like a legit business, and do your research before you send any personal information over, especially things like social security numbers and bank account information. Another thing with these travel nurse Facebook groups is that they're really helpful if you want to look up the hospital that you want to apply to, kind of find out the tea, what are people saying about them. The two hospital systems that I've always heard to avoid are Kaiser Permanente and HCA. All right, so you found some contracts on some different agency websites that you want to apply to. The number one thing I recommend that you do is make a folder on your computer, call it whatever you want, like travel nursing or travel nurse compliance, and just put everything in that folder that you will need to apply and also once you get a job. This is a comprehensive list of everything that you want to put in that folder. Another thing when you're looking at these contracts, you'll notice that there's two things you get paid for. First thing is your hourly rate, and then the other thing is your weekly stipend. The stipend is tax-free money that you get for housing and meals every single week. Your weekly rate is taxed. You want to focus on your weekly stipend being the max amount it can be because again, this is all tax-free money that you take home guaranteed every single week, as long as you don't take any PTO, because yes, some agencies do offer PTO. I've accumulated about, let's say, 30 hours in the last 6 months. A website that you want to use to make sure you're maximizing your stipends is gsa.gov. Use this website. You can enter in the information of what location you want to work in, and it will tell you how much is the max allotted amount that they can give you for a stipend, and you want to make sure you're wagering that. If they're not giving you that on the travel contract, present that to them and say, hey, I know this is how much you can offer me. Is there a reason I'm not getting this much? Because this is how much I'll need. When you're looking at contracts, you want to make sure you're applying to multiple jobs at the same time, whether it's in the same agency or all different agencies. I think I applied to like 5 to 10 different jobs before I ended up getting the job that I have now. My last tip is a little bit niche, but it is to open up a hotel, airline mileage, or travel credit card to put all of your expenses on so that you can earn points back or cash back. All right, that's all I have for you guys. That is how to become a travel nurse in 2024. Let me know down below if you have any questions and I will reply to every single one of your comments. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. It's great for growing my channel and pushing it out to more people. I'm a small creator here on YouTube, but I really love what I do and I would love if you guys stuck around. That's all I have for today, guys. Bye.